Okay, so it's recording because we will upload this to our YouTube channel. So welcome everybody to International Graduate Women in Science Chapter's monthly meeting for March. I'm Susan Fetics, the president and founding member of the International Chapter, and I'm based in Dublin, Ireland. So today we're going to discuss funding opportunities and grant writing. As a reminder, keep yourself muted during the discussion, and if you're having issues with signal, it may help to shut off your video. So in the meantime, as I was saying, type your name and your location, your scientific discipline into the chat. So just at our February meeting, we had requested that members send their photos for International Women's Day on March 8th. And so we had 15 members who participated. And we can see that the most concentrated areas were the United States and Nigeria. But you see we also have people in Korea, India, Kuwait, Australia, and a mix in South America. So this will be added to our next newsletter. So in a question for April, does anyone have any suggestions for the meeting? We've talked about having discussions on business or being an entrepreneur and money management, but we are also open to suggestions. So that's another thing right now during this meeting. If you want to type in the chat a topic for discussion, because these monthly meetings are for you guys. This platform is a resource for all of us to learn from each other and to network globally. So any suggestions or ideas that you have for a monthly topic, please type it in the chat and we'll make it a priority for our meetings. Otherwise, we'll talk business, or I'm also looking into options for I am remarkable or something that would help us with motivation. So today, we're going to hear from our three panelists who have all been awarded funding opportunities. And actually, if you look, all of the funding opportunities are on 3 different continents. So we're really spreading globally. First, we'll hear from Dr. Silvia Batista, located in Uruguay, which is South America. Then we'll hear from Dr. Emelda Chukwu, who's located in Nigeria, Africa. And I'll share my experience last, where I'm located in Ireland, which is a part of Europe for the moment, and we're staying that way. We want to answer your questions as part of this discussion, so please type your questions and your comments, any topics that you want us to hear, and add those to the chat box, and we will absolutely include them in the conversation. So now, in the meantime, what I want to do is just take a poll, if everyone doesn't mind. This poll is anonymous. So the poll is, what is your funding application experience? Have you been awarded funding, winning 1 or more grants or fellowships, or I have never been awarded funding, I've never won a grant or fellowship, or have you had both experiences where you have been awarded funding, but you have also applied and failed at funding applications? So give yourself a few minutes just to answer and see. I have a feeling there's not going to be too many we'll see. Okay, so if you have a couple more minutes, a couple more people, if you want, anyone else want to vote? Okay, so I'll close the poll now. So again, this is anonymous, so no worries, no judgment here. And we see that 80% of the people have been awarded funding, and 20% of the people have both been awarded and failed. I have absolutely been in the category where I've applied and also not received the funding. So thanks for that participation. So now let's begin. Silvia, you can go first if you want to try sharing your screen. And unmute yourself. Yeah. You have to unmute yourself. Oh, wait, let me.
Okay. Do you listen okay to me?
Yep. Yeah, now it's great.
Okay. Well, first of all, I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share this short story about how I live when some years ago, how to get funding for a fellowship. Well, I work in the Department of Biochemistry and Microbial Genomics, and it's an Institute of Investigaciones Biológicas Clemente Estable, is located in Uruguay. And then I thought that the first slide could be interesting to introduce a little presentation of my country, just for you to know where we are located and how is the condition, the economic condition, because the economic condition of where you live in your country is related also of what kind of grants or fellows you can get. Uruguay, most of you must know, it's a small country located in South America between Argentina and Brazil. If you look in the table, I took from Wikipedia, but just for you to look, the gross domestic product is relatively good. It's at $18,000. And then, for example, we can apply for third world country grants. Yes, we are in a limbo, but we could apply for other kind of grants, yes, or fellows. Our Gini coefficient is relatively good, 39.5, and also the Human Development Index is high. If you look also other characteristics for my country, we have almost half of the people have no religion, Christianity 58%. We speak Spanish, just for you to have an idea, but because when it's important where are you from when you apply for a grant or a fellow. Well, this is I wanted to present the place where I work. I work in the institute, the IPSE, how we call it. Depends on the Ministry of Education. We have, these are at the bottom, you can see the areas of research: neuroscience, genetics and molecular biology, microbiology, and environmental science. In this picture, you can see all the women that we are now working in the institute, that main of the population in the institute are women, even when we don't get the highest position. Yes, the president is a man. But just for you to see the staff of women, many young people working in the institute. And this is the institute. We are located in the same building since at the beginning of in 1940s in Montevideo. Well, and then I will talk about what I did some years ago when I was making my PhD a long time ago. Now I did my PhD in the same institute and I got a position at the same place. Yes, at the bottom, I only just try to show what I am doing now. I'm working also in microbiology. Also, I work in microbiology, in environmental microbiology and biotechnology. At this moment, I work in Antarctica things and also in the production of bioethanol. But in that time, when I was young, I was making my PhD in biological nitrogen fixation in a kind of rhizobium named as Rhizobium tropici that can establish promiscuous association with several legumes. But in my study, try to focus on Phaseolus vulgaris, the beans. And I worked on carbon metabolism in symbiosis with the plant. Yes. Well, during that time, in some moment when I only just put this slide just to show that we try to identify, we could identify another transport system besides the DCT. Well, it's another transport system that is expressed in symbiosis for oxoketoglutarate. Well, in some moment in my PhD, I had to finish my PhD and I needed to make some experiments on the molecular part. And then what I got in that moment, later I will explain how I did. I got a fellowship to go to Reading, to the University of Reading in UK, at the laboratory of Professor Philip Poole. Yes, that in that moment he was working there. I think it's in Oxford now. Well, this is what I tried to make a slide because it could be more interesting for you what it happened to me some years ago. Perhaps many things have changed now. But I think it could be interesting for you to see what I did, what was my experience, and if you don't get funding, just to try. and keep trying to find what the mistakes you could do. Funding, it depends of your area of research, obviously, your country, your age, and your qualification. This is very important. And then what I do is, in that time, was to look in internet, university, colleagues, conference, to look for sources of financiation of funding, yes? And then I create a folder. In that moment, I made a paper folder and also a folder in computer with information, everything. And then you have to sit down and look. And other thing important is to share with other people in your lab or people from other places, because they can tell you experience, what happened or what is important for you to write. I think this is the best way to share and to exchange experience, and also about the laboratories where you can apply. And the other thing important is the place, how to find a place where you need to work. First of all, is what you need to do for your fellow, what are the experiments, and the place that they can accept you. It could be a previous contact of your thesis advisor, or some researcher that was my case, some researcher that you follow for the articles. In my case, we didn't have previous contact with Philippe Poul. What they had is just only the papers. He worked in a topic very similar to us, and he was very, very good. And then what I did in my case was just I wrote him a long email explaining what I was doing, and he was very nice, very nice. He responded me immediately, and he said, well, you try to get your funding, I will make your supporting letters. And this is the best, and the most important thing is good luck. There is very nice people that can help you with the fellowship. Yes, and then what happened? Well, this is when in 2000. In 2000, I was almost a single parent. My parents were old, now they are dead, but I have a child of 5 years old, and I had to finish my PhD. And then I decided, I don't know if it was a good idea, but at this moment, I think it was good to go alone. I went along with my son to UK. And then I told to him, I wrote him a letter explaining the situation. And Philippe Poul was very, very nice. He got a place for me to stay for renting, and he got a school for me to go and for Gabriel, the name of my son is Gabriel, to go to that school. This was exceptional, I know, because it's not very common to have a person that can accept you. And the problem is, of course, the timing, because I had to take my son 9 a.m. to the school. I went to the lab working, and then at 4 p.m. I had to pick him up. And sometimes I had to bring him to the lab, to the office, writing and drawing, and I keep finishing my experiment. It's not the best situation, I know, but it was what I had to do. Sometimes Saturdays I went also with him in the office. I think Philippe Poul was not very happy with this, but I could finish. But this is important to have, to find a good lab to receive you. All the people in the lab were very nice, and it was unforgettable experience for my son and for me. My son, now he forgot many of the things we live there, but the problem is also the adaptation for him in another country. His father speaks English, but he had problem with the understanding the English also, but it was fine. And then only just to finish, because it's a short presentation, this is I think one of the problems we have to solve is care system for mothers working in science. These pictures are from the one on the left is my student, but sometimes he has to measure the growth of the bacteria in the colorimeter. And after the working hour, she's alone with the daughter that you can see here, and then she took the baby. This is not, I know it's not the best, but sometimes we have an emergency and we try to take care of the children of the students. And also here there's another student in a conference with the daughter. And this is, she was pregnant, and this is the other baby. Oh, only that, just to share what I did, but I think perhaps no something that could happen, it had to be solved now, but when I look my students, they suffer the same, sometimes the same things that they suffer now. They live the same things that I did some years ago. Only that I didn't know what else to share, because there are some personal things that I can talk to you about how I live, but it's only that.
No, it's perfect. That's great. Thanks.
Okay.
You need Emelda, are you ready? And then we'll go do the full discussion after I'll go after Emelda. Emelda, can you hear us?
Hello, Susan. Yes, I can hear you. I'm just trying to.
Okay, it's absolutely no problem. I have your presentation ready to go, so just let me know if you want me to project, and then I can just say next slide each time.
Okay.
Fine. Oh, there you go. Yeah, looks great.
Yeah, so thank you. All right. Thank you, Susan, and good day, everyone. My name is Imelda Chukwu. I am a medical microbiologist working as a research fellow at the Center for Infectious Diseases Research, Microbiology Department of the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research. I'll be talking on grant writing and funding opportunities from my own perspective as an early career scientist. So, starting up as a scientist, I actually got my first degree as a medical laboratory scientist, and I was working as a biomedical scientist for about 5 years before I finally decided that doing routine job was not my thing. I felt that I needed something more, something that could be challenging for me. So I decided to further my education. So I got my master's and PhD in medical microbiology. So during the course of my PhD, I had to apply for several grants. In fact, that particular year, I applied for up to 7 of them. Small grants. I wasn't that experienced, so I did the best I could with some guidance. And I was happy, so happy to know that I got my first grant, and that was the GWIS Mondy Fellowship. And that was in 2014. And I have to mention that it was quite significant for me because that was my first ever grant as a graduate student. And being that my PhD was self-funded, so the pressure was a lot on me. So I was so relieved to have something to at least fall back on. And when I got this grant in 2014, I joined GWIS in 2013, and then I was one of the winners in 2014. It was quite remarkable for me. As an early career scientist, this fellowship placed me at an advantaged position. It was a stepping stone for me. And I'm still grateful to GWIS up until now, because as an early career scientist, you need that platform to begin to grow. That platform was very necessary and basic for me, and I was glad that I was able to get it. And since then, I've been an active member of GWIS. Being there in the organization has given me in different fields. So that's where we're there for each other, and I have no regrets. So far, I've been a member for about 8 years now. And it gave me, most importantly, it gave me the opportunity to finish my PhD research and use cutting edge tools for my research. I was able to use part of the money to travel to Brazil at the anaerobic reference lab in Brazil to finish my molecular work. And also I used that opportunity to gain and acquire some skills. And those skills I acquired were, allowed me to advance my research on infectious diseases. And I have to mention that I'm very grateful to Dr. Nwankore, Francisca Nwankore. We all know her as a member of GWIS. Not only did she introduce me to GWIS, she was quite instrumental because she mentored me all through my PhD and also when I was applying for the GWIS fellowship. The fellowship normally comes up usually January. I think the deadline is in January 11, between 11 or 15th. And one thing we must know about, in fact, just like every other grant application, you need to check the eligibility criteria and then the specific requirements. I could remember then that I was required to put all the documents in a single PDF. That was quite tasking for me then because I was like, there's a form, a formatted form I'm supposed to fill, and then the recommendation letters and all, bits and pieces of things, and I'm supposed to put all of them in one single PDF. I was like, how am I supposed to do this? So, but, I had guidance and I had people helping out. So the truth is that you don't have to do it alone. You can get help if you need help. And people can tell you just, bits and pieces of what you need to do to make it work. So that was quite significant for me. And since then, because I had that platform, I had this continuous improvement. So after my PhD, I research where I'm currently working, then gave me some form of confidence to continue what I was doing. Sorry for the distraction. So it gave me some confidence for me to know that if I did this once, I could do it again. And when I entered my profession as a researcher now, I realized that I actually need funding now for my research to make sure that my projects go on. And, so now it's like, this is what I have to do. I have to go out there and get some funding. And with that, I was able to move forward. I've gotten some other grants, some small, most of them competitive grants. And in my institute, they awarded me an intramural grant in 2019, and then the Young Scientist Award. And then I'm currently a two-time winner in the Emory Nigerian Research Training Award, and that is for research into reproductive health of women living with HIV. And then last year I got the Institute New Young Investigator Laureate for fighting against antimicrobial resistance. So it has been like forward, and I'm grateful to GWIS for that first grant. So what worked for me, I would like to share. Grant writing is hectic. I don't know about all that. It is, and it still is hectic because you have to follow the requirements. And of course, before you do that, you need a compelling question. And I have this slogan that is very common, that failure to plan is a plan to fail. You always need to plan ahead. You plan for opportunities, and you should be ready for opportunities so that when they come, the opportunities will meet you ready. So then you need good mentoring. I had good mentoring, and I still have. I have lots of mentors, some academic mentors, some research, some career. You need all that because then you need to be guided as an early career researcher. And then you plan ahead. Don't just wait for the calls to come out and then you start. You have to plan ahead. If there is a call you target for like next year, you start this year to work towards it. And of course, you need a SMART objective. That's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. If you have such an objective, you can put up a concept note and then you have people look at it. People that are more experienced than you, always better for you to let them look at it. And then, of course, collaboration is key. You can't do it alone. Collaborate with other people. You can also learn from other people's projects that are already funded. You work with them, collaborate in one way or the other. Then you can know what exactly makes their project tick. Why was it fundable? Then that could also guide you as an early career. And then for me, something else that worked for me was the personal development plan. I still have one, and I had one simple template I used. I just have targets, goals, and my timelines. And it has been working for me. And it must not be towards getting grants, it's just to develop myself. So if I feel like I need more training on grant writing, I put that as my target and my goal, and I try to achieve it. I've been, it's a continuous learning process. I've attended a couple of grant writing workshops, trainings, and they have actually guided and they have been quite helpful. So some funding opportunities, you need to know those ones that are that you stand a better chance as an early career. There are lots and lots of funding opportunities, but as an early career scientist, you know that there are some that are more specific for early career scientists, and you need to target them. I'm not quite there yet, but I know them and I could share. So I know that Wellcome Trust International Training Fellowship is usually for early career, the FLAIR, the NIH K43, EDCTP. Of course, GWIS fellowship is a good one to target too. RF fellowship is there. The list is endless. There are quite a lot of them, both small, big, and you can start from small. The small one gives you the stepping stone you need as an early career to move forward. Yeah. So my core values as a scientist and as a researcher, I have some core values, and that is excellence at every stage. What it means is that no matter how small the grants you have, no matter how small your project, do it well. Anything worth doing is worth doing well. You don't have to wait to have a big grant to, to put all your efforts. Do it well, and then it will speak for you in the future. Then, of course, team power. You need a team. You either have your team or you join a team. It's always better. You can't do it alone. Cultivate human relationship is important. Sometimes you need emotional support. Sometimes when you apply for things and it comes out unsuccessful, you feel low. You need people to encourage you and tell you, keep going, keep at it, you will get what you need. And then collaboration is key. I have to keep saying that. It's actually quite key. So thank you so much for listening, and I'm open to any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, it was fabulous. You were really picking up speed there. Let me, I will share my screen now. Okay. Okay. Oh, wait. Somebody is entering. Okay. Just make a second. So I'll talk about the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions Individual Fellowship, and I was awarded that from 2016 to 2018. So I'll go through a lot of the basics, but I'm going to give you the website so you can go through because there's a lot of details. But the key number one thing is mobility is essential. That means you must be living in the country less than 1 year. Sorry. Sorry, okay. I just asked everyone to stay muted during the discussion part. Yes, you must live in the country less than 1 year on the date that the application is due. So also you must be living either in Europe and going to an outside country or be coming to do the research in Europe. So you must have the proposal written in collaboration with the host organization. So that means you must write it with the PI that is known to be your supervisor. You cannot write it independently. And even the Marie Curie website, they have lists of labs and researchers that are looking for fellowship people to apply for fellowships. They're also looking for growth or personal research experience, so you cannot just continue to do the same research, and I'll explain more about that. You must participate in community outreach and public engagement, so dealing with the press and dealing with public events to teach them about the research that you're doing, or at least your discipline. And you see in 2020, there was 328 million euros that were given to over 1,600 researchers. And the categories are quite various. I was in the life sciences, but you see it's also chemistry, economics, physics, mathematics, social sciences, and the environment. The deadline is every September, and then you receive the results in February. So to explain, I'm a structural biologist. So to show what happened during the 9 years, I left Brooklyn and went to North Carolina in order to pursue my PhD, which took 6 years. Then after my PhD, I went to France for my first research fellowship. It was via Boston for 6 months, but that was too many arrows. Then when I finished the 2.5 years in France, I went back to New York for 3 months. And that's where I left and came to Ireland, finally. And that was in 2015. And that's where I have stayed because I'm tired. So I am making research opportunities for myself here. I just ask for new people that are attending, can you mute yourself? Let me just, sorry. Can new people mute yourself, please? Thank you. Just when you join, mute yourself. It makes it easier for the conversation. And then you can type your name, your location, your discipline in the chat. So what is crystallography? This is my PhD research project. On the left-hand side, I have the actual crystals of RAS, GTPase bound to RAS kinase, which is a cancer pathway. And on the right-hand side is the actual high-resolution structure that's been deposited in the protein data bank. I'm sorry, can somebody still unmute themselves? I mean, somebody still needs to mute themselves. There. I'm sharing screen, so it makes it difficult. I can't see all the participants. And this is for structure-based drug design. So that was the reason for all the travel, because this is what I was pursuing in cancer and then in cystic fibrosis, which I'll explain. So for Marie Curie, my application, it was definitely a case of third time's the charm, because I did not apply the first time and receive it. So I applied in 2012 when I was working in France, and the feedback was it was an excellent research project, but I hadn't changed discipline enough, and that's what I'll explain more. I applied in 2014 when I was looking to come to Ireland, and that's where it was a good research project. There was good growth in my research skills, but the score was too low to be funded, so I was put on what was called the reserve list. And that's where I was recommended to reapply using the same project, but obviously improve the proposal. So when I applied in 2015, I had moved here to Ireland, but I was living here less than a year at the application deadline. So as I said, I rewrote with the same project, improving the research and the outreach using the evaluation which they give you, but also, you know, there had been 1 year of changes, not only in myself, my CV, my publications, but the publications within the field of cystic fibrosis. So to explain this, why you need to have a growth in research skills that's mandatory for the Marie Curie, my PhD and my first research fellowship in France, as I mentioned, was RAS, GTPase, crystallography, and structure-based drug design, where RAS is a known cancer pathway protein, and the GDP is a molecular switch, and it's a soluble protein. However, moving to Ireland with a successful application, this was a cystic fibrosis, which is an ATPase crystallography project, but still for structure-based drug design, where it's an ATPase binding cassette transporter, ABC. So I was switching from GTPases to ATPases. I was switching from soluble proteins to membrane proteins, where it was 60 to 70% drug targets are membrane proteins, such as the GPCRs. I switched from cancer research to cystic fibrosis, and the idea being that Ireland is the country with the highest cystic fibrosis birth rate in the world. So again, it just brings it full circle of why the work needed to be done here, aside from the research and how important the work is to the people who are living here. So all of these combinations need to come together for a Marie Curie Fellowship. So for me, what were some of the benefits? Well, definitely the Marie Curie Alumni Association, MCAA, you're in it for life. And there's conferences and lectures, there's great workshops. There's local chapters in most countries. There's opportunity for networking and community outreach. So it's a prestigious award where the next stage would be independence, either becoming a professor or going into industry or becoming an entrepreneur. There's no limitations on what stage you are in your career or what age you are. You just have to fulfill, you know, publications and research output and have certain experience limits. But you can be, you know, close to retirement and you can apply for one of these. The mobility is really the key, which I enjoy that it's inclusive. You can apply, yes, several times as long as you keep growing in your research and as long as you're moving to a new country, and that is in relation to Europe. And one of my favorite things is that the Alumni Association, for the conferences and their workshops, they really are big promoters of gender equality, diversity, inclusion, and mental health. They're big advocates for researchers. And so I'm just showing here on the top right is just one of the European Researchers' Night, where I was teaching the public about protein crystallography. And then on the bottom is a PhD student who was in the Marie Curie, who won a Marie Curie, but at the PhD level. And I was teaching him how to load the crystals onto the robot. And I believe that is the end. Yes, that's the end of my talk. So I'll stop sharing screen. And then now we can open it up if there have been any. Okay, so yeah, I see Julie is asking, do many funding sources give you feedback on your application, especially if you do not receive the award? So that's where I had set. So now Silvia and Emelda, these questions are going to be for us, and we can go over some of the topics that I had pre-suggested. But what Judy is asking is if you get feedback if you don't win the award. So with Marie Curie, you do. That's why and with Marie Curie, it's very specific. They make it quite easy for you. Of course, you have to, it wasn't as simple as just following their evaluation. I had to keep up with the literature for the year. I had to improve my CV for the year. So I had to put in a lot also, but they did give specifics, which is why in France, there was no growth in the research. I was staying in cancer. I was staying in the GTPases. So it was not worth pursuing that. It was worth pursuing it for me for the growth to come to Ireland. So Silvia or Imelda, do you want to answer that question?
Specifically, yes. The question was related specifically about what?
I'll type it in. It's just, did you get feedback on failed applications?
Feedback?
Yeah. Evaluations from the funding agency.
Well, it was a long time ago in that moment, but I got funding from, in my case, it was funding from a national program for basic science, and it was almost sure I could get because it was for PhD students. And the other one was from UNESCO. And it was, I don't remember very much, but I think I didn't have any problems with the application. It was immediately, I don't know, it was other times, it was in 2000. I don't know if it's exactly what you're asking. No, I don't know.
Imelda, did you receive feedback? You had a lot of applications there, because you've had a lot of success.
Yeah.
Well, I have had a lot of, if you call it a lot, but then I've had some many unsuccessful applications. But some give feedback, but others don't. I remember one I applied for last year from Pfizer for antimicrobial resistance, and you know, all we got was an email stating that it wasn't successful. So they said if you require feedback, you should apply for it within some time. And then we did, and we never got any feedback. I kept sending message back and forth, and we never sent any message. And I think they later said that because when they called for another one, I had to send back the message and ask, the one I applied for, last year I didn't get any feedback, and why do I need to apply for another one? Then they finally got back to me that they had so many applications and all that. But that feedback is really very important, especially for people in the early career stage, because it helps you to improve on what you didn't do right. And then you can, make some adjustments and try to get better at what you're doing, because it's a continuous learning process. So there is need for that feedback. But I've done one that they actually sent like 3 pages of feedback, and I was happy for that. So because I could go back and retrace my step and know where I got it wrong. And it's quite helpful.
Yeah, I see in the chat, Ivana in Brazil, she has said that there's no feedback from funding agencies. So it really is critical when you have feedback because it helps you navigate. Because that's why I knew in France, the feedback that I had, it was pretty much a dead end. There was no point in pursuing it because it was a lab where I couldn't, that they were doing GTPaces. So I would have had to change labs, which I knew why there was a good chance for it switching to ATPaces in Ireland. Don't see if there's no other questions, at least in the meantime, the one thing I wanted to ask the panelists was, what surprised you the most during your experience of the award? Was there anything that was unexpected that happened, either results or personally that, can be tied into the funding experience?
Me?
Silvia, yeah?
Okay, no, in the case of that fellowship, it was a short period. I knew I could have problems with my son there, but I could finish what I wanted to do. It was specifically some specific things, and I could keep. I brought some stuff to Uruguay, to Montevideo to finish. It was different. In other fellowships, and I went to Mexico also previously before everything, and sometimes the things they don't go as you expect, but in some moment and after some month or some reactives, you don't get the reactives in exactly the moment when you need, but everything depends of the disposition in the lab, or you can try to find other activities just to finish. I don't know, I didn't have any, I have good experience usually. Perhaps it was some time ago and everything is fine now. I don't know, Emelda.
Imelda?
I'm not sure what the question was.
Just, was there anything experience that was unexpected during your funding? Like, was there an opportunity, or just were you present, at the right place at the right time, or something that just is unexpected? Because you apply for the funding, it's going to be for a certain period of time and you have it all set out, but then was there something unexpected that you enjoyed?
They asked for GWIS. It was quite unexpected because it was my first, not that it was my first application. I remember that I also applied for IFS and then it wasn't successful. And I applied for one where they needed the referee to go online and fill some form, and my referee somehow forgot to do that, and the deadline elapsed. I couldn't do that. I was frustrated. But then for the GWIS, when I got it, I wasn't expecting it. It was quite unexpected because I'm just trying my hands. I wasn't good at it then, at least. So, but when it came out, it was quite encouraging for me. I felt like, it's possible for me to do this. So I was happy, and the grants went well. I didn't have problem accessing the funds. They sent to my school, and the school made the full fund available to me then. And I was quite happy. I sent back all the requirements, everything they asked for, the reports and all that. So it's also very important. If they ask you for quarterly reports, or if they ask for a report at the end, you must make sure you send those back to them, and proper audits of how you spent the money. So I was new at all this, so it was the learning process. I had to do all that, and I had to finish well, so that I made sure I had a proper record at the end, and it was important for me. But subsequently,
So it sounds like the funding opportunity itself was the biggest surprise.
Yeah, that was the biggest surprise for me. And I think it did a lot for my, self-esteem, my career and everything. It made me feel like, yeah, I can do this. After I have failed at like 3 or 4 of them, that one came true for me, and it helped me a lot. I know that for sure.
Right, because for me, I would say the biggest surprise was during the fellowship. There was a lot of work, but when I could sneak out to workshops or network with other people, just seeing how I learned about myself that I did not want to stay in academia because it didn't suit me, which did surprise me. But having met people and seeing how this is the final step going towards independence, that itself gave me the strength to believe. I'm still in the process, but it gave me the strength to believe that I can branch out on my own outside of academia and outside of industry and keep my biochemistry scientific career going, which is a bit, stressful at times, but we all have stresses of that. There's a good question. Somebody had, I just lost it. Right. So Kemi was asking, what is the best way to contact potential hosts in other countries? So I guess, Silvia, you had that experience. How did you get in contact with the hosts in other countries? Or what prompted you?
Well, in that occasion, I only had the papers. I really liked the experiments, the work, his work. I just wrote him a letter, a mail. But in other occasions, I think it's very important to go to conferences. In the conference, you can contact in courses. We try to, in Uruguay, we try to organize international courses to invite the teachers, professors, and then we can make contacts in that opportunity. Other thing is just if there is already a collaboration between the people in your lab or some professors, but I think you have to use your imagination to have contact or to go to workshops, conference, everything. Now it's more complicated, I know, for the young people. But in my case, I was lucky. I don't know if it's so easy to get a response. I don't know, Emelda.
Yeah, Julie, did you want to say something?
Well, Susan, are you comfortable talking about your situation during your Marie Curie, how you got through it? Are you comfortable doing that at all?
Not today, but what I will say, staying on the topic of how to, to answer Kemi's question, staying on the topic of how to reach out, how did I end up in Ireland is because I was determined as a structural biologist to stay in the structural biology field and structure-based drug design. And I'm already having the feedback of I need to move beyond cancer and soluble proteins, which I knew anyway, but that was the big push. So at the time, 2013, 2014, that's when the lipid cubic phase method for crystallizing membrane proteins was big, and the person who was the biggest name doing that was in Ireland, was in Dublin. And so I just sent an email out of nowhere, but you got to make it short, to the point, and memorable, which is a very magical combination, but I did. I just stated what I was doing, that I was finishing in 6 months, and would there be an opportunity to work in your lab? And his reply was, yes, but there's no funding. So have you considered, applying for something such as the Marie Curie? And I wanted to win one. So once I put all the pieces together, that this would be ticking a lot of the boxes for what they require, I knew that there was a good chance, and the fact that he was supporting me. So that was something Silvia is talking about, going to conferences, and I mean, absolutely. And even, you know, conferences are all online now, so you can direct message. But I didn't meet my future boss at Trinity at a conference at all. I just sent a cold call email, and he replied. And he, you know, of course, he even said, I receive so many of these emails every day, I don't reply to all of them. So that's where I think a big key, if you're going to just send an email not knowing this person not knowing you, you have to keep it short. You cannot throw it on. And in fact, just that first one, I just said, you know, I'm in France, I'm looking to stay in Europe, and I'm a crystallographer, and I want to move on to membrane proteins for drug design. I did not include a CV. I did not include a cover letter. I mean, it was seriously 3 or 4 lines, and that's it. Because then I knew the following would be either yes or no, and the yes would be, well, send on your CV. So again, keep it short and to the point. Robin, did you want to say something?
Yes, this ties together a lot of our discussion with the mentorship last time we met. And I wanted to say that I stalked my mentor and ended up getting lots of grants. He was in Australia. I was doing my research in Pennsylvania in US. I waited for seeing him coming over to a course, and he was going to teach in Woods Hole. So I got a mini grant from my department to go to Woods Hole, met him, built a relationship. He was like a big brother. He ended up being on my committee for my PhD because he was my hero. I loved his work, just like Silvia loved hers. And I got to work with you. And he said, I'll be happy to help. But the big thing is he was on many NIH review committees. And his recommendation helped me to get grants. And he got me on the grant review committee, which I signed in at the beginning of this session on the chat. I sat on NIH review boards, all because of him. And I ended up in France judging scientific research projects in the space. It blew me away, all because I just stalked this professor in my research, my #1 research reference, and I just lucked out. But I think it's essential to follow through. Hey, Silvia, what has your relationship been with the Reading professor since you left?
You have to unmute, Silvia. You have to unmute.
Actually, he I think 1 year after I left his lab, he had to leave. He went to Norwich, and I think he went after to Oxford. The problem is, after I didn't keep working on rhizobium, he kept working on rhizobium. And actually, in my case, I just met him in some conference about nitrogen fixation, but I didn't keep working in nitrogen fixation. I work now in other things in Antarctica, and then sometimes I write him, but I didn't keep the connection in the same, because we don't work in the same topic. I only read his papers still. I do that.
Sylvie, also, I would like to know what you're doing are you going into Antarctica as a single mother? Are you going down a lot?
My son is a boy, a man now. I am no grandmother yet, but no, we keep working in Antarctica. I didn't go in this campaign because there is a big restriction with the pandemic, but the projects of Antarctica, they are still going on. Yes.
Mm. Well, what I'd like to add on to Robin's comments about how she tracked down her future mentor, for those of us who had to survive before Google, we can be quite crafty because you had to do all the work on your feet. So those of us who got our undergrad and graduate work in before Google, when we had to go to the library and sift through books to get all the chemistry references, the IUPAC names and all that. Yeah, it's all in there. That's where I think a lot of us bring that with us. And some people, sometimes younger people who grew up just Googling everything, which trust me, I am doing 24/7. But they didn't have that experience where you had to, know the person's favorite sandwich and just happen to have it and run into them on a corner because you knew when they were going to be at a corner and get to them to try and have some sort of working relationship with them. So that's also where sometimes you just have to think outside the box and think outside of Googling how to get in contact with people. Although obviously, reading and knowing people's publications is the way to learn anything now. I remember when PubMed started. That was when I was getting my master's is when PubMed launched, and that was huge. That was so wonderful. It made it so much easier. I was going to say, we're at the hour point. So while everyone is still here, I'd like to just finish up with a poll. We can continue the conversation, but just to have an idea, if everyone, I'll launch it now, so everyone, it will pop up on your screen just asking, was this a helpful session? Did you learn something today that can help you with future funding applications? So the answers can either be yes, no, or I'm not sure. And this is anonymous, so there's no judgment here. You can absolutely not worry about us knowing. We won't know. We're just going to think. So looks like we have a few votes. So if everyone give it a few more seconds, and then I'll show the results.
For some
But
reason,
yeah, if you have any more questions, you can ask them in the comments. Type it in the chat if you have any more questions, because we can continue. I just wanted to get some idea. Emelda, did you say something?
Yeah, I just said that I didn't see the question. I just saw the poll, the results. I wasn't seeing the questions.
It's in progress right now. It's still open. Did you learn something today that can help with future funding applications? So it's multiple choice. You can only answer yes, no, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know, but it's not showing on my screen.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure if something is wrong. Well,
yeah, it's
I can end it now. We have a few.
I'm just not able to vote. That's all. Yeah.
Can show. So it seems like the majority of people, 83% at least, found today's helpful, which is nice. And then let me just hit download so at least I can have this. Okay. And then I'll stop sharing results. Okay. So are there any other questions or any other comments from anyone? No, seems like, so someone is asking, can GWIS help in connecting early career researchers with the more experienced ones for mentoring? There is, if you go to the YouTube channel last month, the topic was mentoring. I don't have the link on this tablet right now. It's on my other computer. But if you go to GWIS, the International Chapter's YouTube channel, that was posted, and we talk about it. And also, GWIS, it's in the chat. I put in, well, if you just go to, I'll type it in, gwis.org, and then there's a mentorship directory. There's a membership tab that you can go into there, and they have mentoring. And we've also talked about within the International Chapter, launching that. That's what we're trying to do with these meetings. We're trying to get people connected and see names and faces and hear your discipline and where you're located to see who's active. Because, even during these meetings, you can be direct messaging each other during the conversation. So it seems like if there's no other questions, I'll end the recording now. So let me do that.